Today we're going to talk about the first and most important step toward financial independence. One of the most significant aha moments for me was learning about the importance of time as it relates to investing, or more specifically, compounding interest. 20 years ago, I attended a Dave Ramsey live event where he went through his financial peace routine. Naturally, he addressed investing and made a point about the importance of getting started early using two characters named Art and Ben. In the hypothetical scenario he went through, starting at age 19, Ben invested $2,000 each year for 8 years, and then he never contributes another penny to the account. He just lets compounding interest take over and do the rest. Art, on the other hand, waits until he's 27 to begin saving, but he saves $2,000 a year each year for the rest of his life. So between ages 19 and 65, Ben saves $16,000 over 8 years, while Art saves $78,000 over the course of 39 years. In the example that Dave Ramsey gave, each of these guys earned an average annual interest rate of 12%, which is a bit unrealistic, but I'll come back to that in a bit. So you can see from the table at the end of their 65th year, Ben has $2,288,997, while Art only has $1,532,183. So even though Art invests $52,000 more over the course of his life, he never catches up to Ben. Furthermore, in this example, Art won't ever catch up to Ben because the annual rate on return in Ben's portfolio is outpacing the $2,000 a year Art is contributing to his account. To me, this was a great example of the power of compounding interest, but unfortunately the assumed rate of return can be a bit distracting. For years, Dave Ramsey has consistently argued that a 12% average rate of return is easy to find with the right mix of mutual funds. He also never specifically shares which mutual funds he's speaking of, just generally recommends 4 investment classes for investors to look to. Now, in my opinion, it isn't very realistic to expect an average rate of return of 12% throughout your investing life. For one thing, even if you were 100% invested in a total U.S. stock market fund, based on historical returns, you should expect something closer to 8.35%, not 12%. An S&P 500 index would do much better at 10.67% historically, but this is still well short of 12%. Also, your portfolio is probably going to shift from a more aggressive to a more conservative strategy as you age. This means lower volatility, but it also means lower average returns, putting you even further away from that 12%. The bottom line is 12% is a bit on the aggressive side. Now, at best, I would assume a 10% rate of return, and 8% is even more likely, but even that is before inflation is taken into account. In the example of Art and Ben, if they both earned a 9% average rate of return, they would reach age 65 with almost the same amount in their portfolios, though even then Art won't catch Ben until they turn 83. Now, sadly, a lot of people get hung up on the assumed rate of return in this example, which causes them to miss the ultimate point, that point being the power of compounding interest. Now, even if Art and Ben achieved a 9% rate of return, the fact that Ben was able to do that with barely more than 1/5 of the money should blow your mind, or at least cause an internal light bulb or two to flicker. Framing this another way, the 8-year head start Ben got took 39 years for Art to make up. Is there anything you'd rather spend 39 years working to achieve than 8? Me either. In another video we filmed a while back, I looked into the opportunity cost of $1 over different ranges of time. Here's that information in a table. Basically what this is illustrating is that every dollar you spend today had the opportunity to be $7.60 in 20 years, $57.70 in 40 years, and $159.04 in 50 years. This chart does assume an annual rate of return equal to the historical average of the S&P 500, which is 10.67%. By thinking about the money we spend in terms of what it could be, we have the tendency to value it more. It's a bit more natural for us to do this with hindsight than foresight. That's why we have a harder time getting rid of some of the items we do the older they are, because there's been at least some investment of time in preserving them up to that point. We hate to waste things, don't we? Well, in the interest of foresight, here's a graph illustrating the exponential power of compounding interest on the same dollars that we gave in the table previously. It hits a little differently when you see it this way because the graph so clearly shows how beneficial patience can be. Then again, it also shows us there's a lot of years between now and the exciting days where the interest feeds itself like a fire that's so hot it seems impossible to bring under control. That brings me to my final point. It's all worth your time. Now, just to let you know something about myself, I hate wasted time. As I was growing up, I thought it was strange when people would say that time was more of a precious resource than money. And because I was young and I had a lot of time but no money, I valued money but thought little of my time. It's kind of amazing how things change. Well, if you happen to be middle-aged as I am and you have kids as I do, you can probably empathize, though neither is a requirement for you to understand what I'm talking about. Well, just as time is precious to us professionally, socially, and even culturally, time is critical to our success financially. The example Dave Ramsey provided was life-changing for me. I don't necessarily recommend ardent submission to every detail of his baby steps, but it would be dishonest if I didn't credit him with altering the path of my life that night. Why? Because when this was presented to me, my net worth was below zero. I was just happy to have a job to keep me fed until my late 60s. To me, wealth was for trust fund babies and business tycoons. This was the first time it ever occurred to me that I had an opportunity to build real significant wealth. At the time I attended this event, I was 23, and this meant the ship had sailed for me in terms of being a Ben, but I could still beat Art. And since Art cleared $1.5 million before age 65, anything better than that was okay with me. Then later on in the show, as I was still thinking about Ben and Art instead of listening to Dave Ramsey, it occurred to me that I didn't have to only contribute $2,000 each year if I was capable of doing more. If $2,000 a year could get me to $1.5 million, then $4,000 each year would put me at over $3 million. I was sold. I'd already been saving and investing some, but it became a much higher priority that night. Now I'm filming this video in the hopes that it will motivate someone out there to do the same thing. You can change your trajectory. It's within your control. So let me encourage you to make saving and investing a priority if you haven't already done so. Sell something if you need to. Get another job or start a side gig if that's what it takes. Whatever you do, do it now. You must make saving and investing a priority. And if you're up in years and you're watching this and you think it's too late for you, well, let me assure you that waiting until later is not going to make it any easier. You'll just be older with less time and the same amount of money. And that's no good. If you're new to saving and investing, you're not really sure where to start, I have tons of content on my channel about IRAs, investing, financial independence, all sorts of concepts, playlists, videos. You can check that out. Also on our website, we have the Next Dollar Roadmap, which is kind of a cradle-to-grave guide for building wealth and moving toward financial independence. We'll put a link to it down in the comments below. As always, I am grateful for your interest and your time. God bless and take care.